And just before we get started, a reminder to stop your video to help with the bandwidth. And Bill Beeson asked me to announce that the listing of fall semester classes will be going out today. So check your email and you can sign up for the fall classes. So Sal, it's all yours.
Can unmute. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Yeah, the next class I have in the fall is the assassination of Martin Luther King. And for those who had attended that class previously, I have a lot of new videos that go into the surveillance on King. And I think you'll find it, not a complete repeat of what was done before. So anyway, today we're going to look at the emergence of humans, at least our ancestors and how they emerge. And so we followed from 4.6 billion years ago, we got up to 300 million years ago with Pangea. That was all of the earth forms together at one spot, and then they split apart and form the globe as we know it today. And while all of them are together, life does emerge on Earth, and we have the dinosaurs are in existence. And so I sent you out a Twitter video of Alex Jones declaring human supremacy. And I wanted you to see that because, see, the dinosaurs were around for 165 million years. We humans, on a liberal definition of how long our species has been around, we've been around for 300,000 years. The dinosaurs, though, didn't declare dino supremacy until their last million years of existence. And obviously their supremacy didn't do them all that much good because they got wiped out by a rock. So maybe really it's rock supremacy, but we'll find out. Alex Jones has declared human supremacy during our first million years on the assumption that we will actually make a million years. And so today we are, there's overlap from one class to the last, and I want to just pick up where we were and look at the dinosaurs being wiped out again. And then what happens, the dinosaurs had dominated the earth, forcing other mammals to go underground. And when the dinosaurs are eliminated, then that life can come up above ground, and there's an explosion of species as a result of that. The earth is an abundance of oxygen, which is really giving fertile ground for life to emerge and different species to come out. And so we're going to also meet Darwinius Massey, who it would be our most distant relative, and that fact alone is sponsored today by Ancestry.com. No, this is a joke. I know, not a very good joke, but a joke nonetheless. Okay, let's. You must pick up on my humor. I'm sorry, it may not be the best humor, but I think dino supremacy is a good one. Okay.
"65 million years ago, the planet was lush. Vegetation was thick on the surface. Living things were prospering like never before.
Sorry, I started with the wrong one. Let me get to the right one. Get over here. Start here. Start there. Share.
It's the worst day in the history of life on Earth. A cataclysm that ends the age of the dinosaurs.
If they hadn't met their destruction, our story never would have begun.
From the ashes, a band of survivors rises to become bigger, nimbler, and smarter than any that came before. Our tribe, the mammals.
It was only after you lose the dinosaurs that mammals really exploded into the diversity of forms that we see today.
What happened after the impact? How did life surge back? The clues have been elusive.
You could go your entire career and not find a skull from this time period. That's how rare they are.
But now comes a remarkable discovery.
There's just nothing like picking up something and finding out it's something amazing.
It's like winning the lottery.
Bam, we hit it big.
An unprecedented trove of fossils reveals a turning point in the history of life.
That moment of rapid mammal evolution is effectively the trigger to our existence here on planet Earth.
Rise of the Mammals, right now on Nova. We live in the age of mammals. All across the globe, they thrive in an astonishing array of forms. From the great beasts of the forests to giants that sound the ocean depths, to us. Mammals dominate the planet. But it wasn't always this way. For 150 million years, mammals lived in the shadows of the dinosaurs. Then, a catastrophe gave them an opening. For years, we've known just bits and pieces about how mammals seized the moment and made our story possible. But now, that's changing. An extraordinary discovery in Colorado is revealing an unparalleled collection of fossils from the time when mammals began their reign. This hoard lay hidden in plain sight until a young fossil hunter made a once-in-a-lifetime discovery.
I grew up in a town of about 80 people, basically the middle of nowhere in southwestern North Dakota.
Stop that share. Let me get back to this one. Okay, let's take another look at this.
But the dominant dinosaurs were about to be wiped from the face of the planet.
Dinosaur bones are found continuously throughout the sedimentary record from 230 million years ago, right up to 65 million years ago, and then instantaneously they vanish.
Not only dinosaurs, but over 70% of species on Earth disappeared. From plant life upward, something terrible had happened to the entire ecosystem of the planet. This mass extinction remained a mystery for generations of paleontologists. but it is a mystery no longer. Colorado, USA. Dan Durda is taking samples from an exposed layer of rock exactly 65 million years old. Scientists now believe that it holds the answer. For Dan Durda, this powdery rock is an indication that the dinosaurs perished in a sudden astronomical catastrophe.
Dinosaurs and 75% of all the other plants and animals that live with them, this layer is their tombstone. This thin layer of clay is the important evidence of a violent event in the history of life on the planet.
The evidence held in the tombstone layer is a huge amount of an exceptionally rare element, iridium. The remarkable concentration of iridium was discovered accidentally in 1980 by a father and son team of scientists, Luis and Walter Alvarez. On the planet's surface, iridium is usually found in very small concentrations. Most of this rare element originates from space rock, deposited from the multitude of small meteors vaporizing in the upper atmosphere every day. The Alvarezes were looking for variations in the strength of these tiny meteor showers, but when they realized this huge concentration was held in the infamous tombstone layer, they proposed a radical new theory for the extinction: death from above. The dinosaur planet had been hit by an enormous meteor. Their theory remained controversial for over 10 years, until the final piece of the puzzle was discovered in Mexico. A hidden crater over 100 miles across.
In 1990, the Chicxulub impact crater was discovered, and its age, when finally dated, turned out to be precisely 65 million years old. It was the smoking gun for the Alvarez theory.
Worldwide, the tombstone layer contains an estimated 200,000 tons of iridium. This translates to a meteor over 6 miles in diameter. Its impact on the planet would have been devastating.
You've got to imagine Mount Everest flying at you across the sky at 20 kilometers per second. Several thousand cubic kilometers of the Earth's crust were vaporized and excavated and launched around the entire planet, slowly raining back down through the atmosphere to settle across the surface of the Earth as a thin layer of dust and debris.
But the meteor was not alone in wreaking destruction. Today in India, ancient lava flows exist that are so thick, whole temples have been carved into their layers. The lavas were the result of a massive eruption that was occurring simultaneously with the meteor strike. Although not as extensive as the earlier Siberian eruptions, these lava flows in western India could have buried the USA to a depth of over 600 feet. The huge clouds of toxic dust they produced would have rivaled those of the meteor. 65 million years ago, the meteor impact and the eruptions would have been a deadly double blow. Whichever had the stronger effect, the combination of these events sounded the death knell for the dinosaurs. The dust cloud lingering high in the upper atmosphere and blocking the sun devastated the life below. The huge dinosaurs, along with most other major species, were extinct. The new world that was to follow would be the world of the mammals and the world of man.
Now I want to, now that we have established that the dinosaurs are gone and it's opened the door for mammals and for species to emerge and to evolve, what many believe to be the beginning of our species comes about somewhere around 10 million years ago. And as the continents continue shifting and moving, we have a where the collision between Asia and Africa creates a valley known as the Rift Valley, and that valley becomes blocked off from the water coming from the Indian Ocean. That creates an environment of drought, and it takes what were our ancestors living in the trees, and they have to come down out of the trees to start looking for food. They eventually walk upright and become Braves fans. Okay, let's have a look at that.
They're one of the planet's most successful species. They've survived volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and entire continents splitting apart. The dinosaurs have thrived for 165 million years. A number of mammals have also survived, like this shrew-like animal. They're prey to the dinosaurs, so they live in trees or underground and venture out only at night. Mammals pose no threat to the dinosaurs. Nothing on Earth can challenge their dominance. Nothing on Earth. A large piece of space rock heads toward Earth. This asteroid is at least 6 miles across and traveling over 40,000 miles an hour. It's bigger than Mount Everest. And heads straight for the Gulf of Mexico. It travels so fast that its impact would be missed in a blink of an eye. A split second changes the world forever. At impact, the asteroid's back edge stands at 35,000 feet. It strikes with such immense force that it destroys everything it hits. The asteroid itself instantly vaporizes. Unleashing the energy of millions of nuclear weapons. Nowhere is safe, with debris flying everywhere. Debris as big as entire city blocks circle the Earth. The blast wave races out from the impact zone like shrapnel from an exploding bomb. Minutes after impact, hundreds of miles from where the asteroid struck, the Earth is under attack. Boulders rain down. Earthquakes shake the ground. And tsunamis batter the coasts. But the onslaught has only just begun. The plume of molten rock and dust spreads out and engulfs the planet. The entire sky acts like a giant lamp. Heating the Earth's surface to over 500 degrees. Vegetation spontaneously ignites. Even months after the impact, smoke and ash still block out the sun's rays. And with less sunlight, plants die and the animals starve. "65 million years ago, the impact has blasted, stoned, and burnt the dinosaurs. Their 165 million year reign is over. But the dinosaurs' demise brings opportunity for another species. A mammal. By living underground, mammals have avoided the heat and fires. And by eating anything, they thrive while more selective eaters die. They're the unlikely inheritors of the dinosaurs' crown. And as one story ends, another begins. With the dinosaurs out of the way, our ancestors may now have a chance at life. The dinosaurs are long dead. The planet is peaceful. In this new world, our mammal ancestors are evolving. "47 million years ago, this lake, in what will one day be Germany, is the perfect place to spot them. Unlike earlier mammals, its eyes and brain are bigger. This is Darwinius massilae, or Ida. She looks nothing like humans, but fossil evidence today indicates that these creatures might evolve into monkeys, apes, and eventually humans. Looking back through 47 million years of evolution might reveal one of our earliest known ancestors. The lake sits on a volcanic crater. It belches out noxious gas that eventually kills Ida.
Do it this way.
The lake preserves her in its oxygen. 20 million years ago, this is our planet. With every continent and every ocean as we know it. Except one thing is still missing: the human race. And for humans to evolve, something needs to change. Along the African coast, a great rift opens up. It stretches nearly 4,000 miles. With mountains growing along its edge. This ape-like creature may stay in these trees forever, but its world is changing. The growing mountains act like a wall, prohibiting moisture from the Indian Ocean from passing over the land. It's getting hotter and drier. The lush rainforest becomes an arid savanna. The new, hotter climate changes the creatures' habitat, forcing them to search further for food. Soon, they stop dragging their knuckles like apes and begin to stand and walk on 2 feet. It's the most important step in the human story. This mountain range could be the reason humans walk on 2 feet. The random movement of 2 plates may have kick-started a chain of events that leads to the first humans. A man and child, a scene very much like today, but it's 1.5 million years ago. They are an early species of human called Homo erectus. And these are the first footprints like our own. Civilizations past and present. Everyone that's ever lived. The greatest inventions, the most brilliant ideas, human history in all its complexity and splendor begins here and now. The climate changes again. 70,000 years ago, sea levels fall, and the gap between Africa and Arabia shrinks to just 8 miles. The Red Sea is now narrow and shallow enough for a small group to cross out of Africa. They're another later species of human called Homo sapiens. Scientists believe that the entire world beyond Africa was populated from descendants of these 200 individuals. Over time, our ancestors multiplied and spread out to India, onto Asia, and into Europe. But while humans head north, a giant wall of ice travels south. Europe, 40,000 years ago. Homo sapiens arrive, only to find a world that's quickly changing. It should be the height of summer, but it's getting colder. The plants are frostbitten, and the rivers are frozen. Natural changes in the Earth's orbit, CO2 levels, and the flow of warm water around the planet conspire to lower the Earth's temperature. The Earth and its inhabitants enter an ice age. Glaciers as high as skyscrapers creep over the northern hemisphere about a foot every day. Slow and powerful, they sculpt the landscape, gouging out great depressions. The planet will never look the same again. Now, around 20,000 years ago, they grind to a halt. Much of the northern hemisphere is covered by ice sheets up to 1.5 miles thick. With trillions of gallons of water locked up as ice, sea levels fall. A strip of land emerges from the ocean between Siberia and Alaska. It's a bridge between two vast continents. A gateway that takes humans from Asia to a new world. The Americas. They're the last great continents to be colonized, the last great human migration, and the first Americans. Now, 14,000 years ago, the changes that triggered the Ice Age reverse. As the ice retreats, it reveals a very different northern hemisphere. The huge depressions that the glaciers create fill with water to become North America's Great Lakes. "6,000 years ago, the ice retreats back to the poles, toward the Arctic and Antarctic.
Okay, so I wanted to again highlight what's now moving into our modern world, and it's an ice age that allows our species to leave Africa and come into North America. Before we leave Africa, 80,000 years ago, there is a volcanic eruption at Lake Toba, which is Indonesia, and the earth is covered with soot, and it starts that ice age going, and our species was nearly wiped out, just like the dinosaurs. We were down to a population of about 2,000, it's estimated. And but yet we managed to survive, and archaeologists and historians will make the case that we were able to survive because of our ability to cooperate with each other. Small population, hostile environment for us to survive, yet we do because we're able to play nice in the sandbox. And so we've come to, there we go. We've seen how the dinosaurs, the route that they went and disappeared, we emerge. It gives an opportunity for us to emerge. The collision of the continents create the Rift Valley, which creates a desert, forcing our ancestors to come down out of the trees and to look for food. In the PowerPoint that I've sent to you, there are links to articles that can expand upon any of this. And we can see that our species really comes to life in Africa. Then we start to move off into other lands. The ice that we go into, the ice age that expands and continues, forces our species in the colder climates to have the melanin in our skin shrink. And it shrinks because melanin, the thing that gives skin a black appearance, it is a natural sunscreen, and it allows us to be in the sun so we can absorb a lot of vitamin D that helps our bones grow strong and all of that. But when we go into colder climates, we're not getting as much sun. So the melanin shrinks so that more of the ultraviolet rays can penetrate our skin and deliver vitamin D. So it's important to understand those. That's how we kind of get our distinctions, I suppose. And this is to try to show our family tree and how it emerges beginning 12 to 16 million years ago, up to our species emerging beginning some maybe 10 million years ago. And let's see, next week, we will take up the topic of global warming and see how, what we have accomplished over the past 500 years. In a very short period of time, we have used our gift of intelligence and thought and our skills to organize so that we may make it uninhabitable for us. Okay, with that, George, we can open up for discussions. Comments.
Okay, just a reminder to stay in speaker view, and then you'll be able to see Sal and the person asking the question as well. And Dave Marcus will be working with me to do that.
And I'm going to start with
you got it.
Okay.
Tim Miner. Howard.
Yeah.
Howard.
Yes. There's a group of Americans, I think in Tennessee or Kentucky, that built a replica of what they believe to be the Noah's Ark. And in that ark, they include dinosaurs and human beings and all the other species of animals by two, except for unicorns. They missed the boat. But I don't understand the rationale behind that belief. I mean, if we existed during the dinosaurs and we're living in trees, we shouldn't be here right now, or we might look a little different, perhaps. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what, runs through people's minds. I can't, I just, as I kind of just follow what the, people who are scientists and others have prepared and see if I can follow it and put it together in some cogent form. But, there's all kinds of, delusions out there. I mean, I don't know how else you relate to it. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
What do you think?
I think their rationale is literal, that the world was created in 6 days, and that means everything. And they don't believe in fossils. Those are not real things. That all of the living things in the history of the earth lived at the same time. I mean, that just doesn't quite make it. With the meteor, then there's none of us would be here.
No, right. Look, the difficulty is that when I say what I think about it, goes directly in conflict with people's religious beliefs. And
some, yeah.
I certainly respect people's religious beliefs. I look at them as, I try to look at religion through the lens of history. And there are events in history that correlate with religion and how it comes about. There was a way that people looked at religion before we discovered agriculture. And it was not God created everything. There was a sense of transcendence, that there's a higher power, but not the idea of God that we have today. And that idea of God, there's a point in history when it comes about, specifically 4,000 years ago with Abraham. And there are events that are going on around it that I believe have an impact on why religion took that turn. It took that turn because Abraham comes about 350 years after the first empire. And what does empire mean? Empire means brutality, invasion, people killing each other, warfare, enslavement. All of that is what empire means. It's like you can hear Winston Churchill talk glowingly about the British Empire. Well, the British Empire meant death and destruction for a lot of people. And so in the face of that comes this guy, Abraham, who many of the masses of people have been suffering from these warfares. And he comes about with this idea of a moral code. It's not his idea. It's the things that people have been doing, word of mouth, stories they've been telling. He really becomes the person who's codifying what all those people contrived during those 350 years of empire building, and lots of people getting killed, lots of pain, lots of suffering. And they now come up with these ideas, they're contrived ideas. but they are giving a moral story. And so I think if I look at that kind of thinking as a metaphor for thought, for moral belief, then it makes sense to me. But when people want to say literally the world was created in 6 days, just it flies in the face of all of the science that we have, and that provides really pretty substantial evidence.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question about the impact of the asteroid in the Yucatan. And it said everything was vaporized, and yet it shows the skeletons. So that was a bit of a
it's what vaporized was the meteor itself, and all of the plant life, and of course the dinosaurs. Everything above ground gets vaporized.
But it still showed skeletons. It showed the skeletons laying on the land.
Right.
All right, and it wouldn't have affected rocks and fossils that were laying on the surface?
I don't know, but I would assume that part of the science of what they're looking at is radiation, to try to measure how old is this rock. And I would think it would come from that, but I don't know.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, Denise. If you can unmute, let me unmute you.
Got it.
Hey.
Hi, Sal.
Hi, Denise.
So I think the explanation, oh, I forgot to start my video. Okay. So I think the explanation for the carcasses is that was in areas not where the meteor landed, but there's that whole sequence where there's nuclear rocks, etc., that are spreading around. So this is in areas that were not directly affected, but areas where there were rocks and fires and the sky clouded over and ash, not where everything was vaporized, right? That it's the rest of the planet. It's talking about the evolution of the rest of the planet.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I did see another hand somewhere.
You sure was it a erect hand or was it walking on 4 feet?
Yeah. No, maybe not. Maybe I didn't. Bud, do you have anything? I see Bud out there. He usually adds stuff to this. You're muted, Bud. Maybe not. Okay.
Basically, if everybody's done it, if everybody's willing to unmute themselves and give Sal a warm hand for our journey on this planet, we would have been here without you.
Here.
I hope that you're getting something out of these videos and just an understanding of this environment that we're in, because I feel, I mean, from my studies, what I always found very valuable about this is that it takes the arguments when someone is going to say, we've proven that this economic system is the best economic system ever. It's like, well, maybe you have for the past 5 years or whatever, and you're making a lot of money out of it. But, or when someone says, our white skin makes us, superior. I just think when you understand this whole context of the existence of the planet and the things that have occurred and all of the science behind it, it makes it absurd. And so that's why I felt that, in doing the series on, American history, I wanted to add even broader context because I think it's very important.
And Maxine would like to add some broader context also.
I would like to know if Sal has made a study of the evolution of humor.
Yeah.
And when did that start? Because it certainly is sustenance.
It started with my classes.
Oh. Well, thank goodness, because we need it to get through the next few hundred years.
Yeah, it's like, the things that I find funny, most of the rest of the human race doesn't. And so I understand that. And I've always said, if you really want better humor than you get from me, we're going to have to up the fees for, getting comedy writers.
Are you going to take continuing ed classes?
Yeah. And that's why we're dropping you, Sal. We're going to Bud.
Go right ahead,
Bud.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I guess I did have a thought. And you think about the dinosaurs essentially, what you might call ruling the earth for 165 million years. That is a really, really long time.
Wait a second.
And apparently they...
1 second. I am going to...
Huge.
Bud, can you unmute yourself? I'm going to mute everybody.
No, I'm not muted.
Okay.
Not a...
Well, yeah, now you are. Sal, are you mute? I'm going to unmute you.
Understand. And okay, go ahead, Bud.
Okay, was I muted the whole time?
No. Just there was some noise happened.
Oh, okay.
Just last.
Anyway, when you really think about it, 165 million years is a god awful long time, and we've been here. What was it? 60,000 or
300,000,
100,000 or something. And we managed to practically wreck the place in that amount of time. It just kind of makes me think that we're really, it's fairly obvious now that we're really fouling our nest, and that if we just keep going the way we are, we'll be lucky to make a couple of 100,000 years. And I guess the dinosaurs had it right. They I guess maybe the idea here is that intelligence isn't necessarily such a great thing for a species in terms of longevity. I guess that's pretty much what I have.
No, I that's the thing. That's what strikes me is that really, as I think we're given this gift, and the best we can do with it is to see how is to measure our GDP. That's the best we can do. And I think really the dinosaurs, they didn't have that intelligence, and that's why they were able to live for 165 million. And actually, I think the supremacists are the rocks. They've been here from the very beginning. And there's, you say he's dumb as a rock. I'm starting to think I'd like to be as dumb as a rock. They're here for 4.5 billion years, and they're not killing each other. They're not, when you consider, I know I'm on my soapbox, but that we have children being murdered by weapons in their classrooms, and we can't figure out what the hell to do about it. My God, how is this possible? how is this possible? I just, and I, you know, that's the kind of, so, you know, as a security analyst, when I would look at things that were threats, I would try to understand that threat. And then I would come to realize how absurd it all was. Not only, I mean, really the people who were agitated and were perpetrating some kind of grievance, I understood them better than the people who were inflicting the grievance and really held a lot of power. And so if this is the best we can do, I'm ready to have my brain removed so I don't contribute to it anymore.
Well, you know, evolution hasn't stopped.
Yeah.
So if we are fortunate enough to live long enough to where our brains and our what do you call them, our emotions evolve to the point where we stop doing this, then we'd have a chance to, you know, continue. But the problem is evolution's a little too slow and we're moving a little too fast. So I don't think the path is gonna, you know, the two paths are gonna cross at some point to where we realize how stupid what the things that we're doing are, and, you know, somehow evolve away from so much anger and greed. Yeah, that's just anyway.
No, I understand. I you know, in my experience in security, I've experienced a lot of horrifically sobering moments. And, you know, in the end, I would have to sit there and contemplate what's wrong with us. Why would we do this to each other? It's and when you get to what's behind so much of it, it is such a waste. Yeah.
Well, it's those, I think it's those instincts that initially allowed Homo sapiens to succeed and prosper. But, you know, the thing about, I don't know, selfishness or greed or whatever, you know, saving up enough food to last for a few months when we were hunter-gatherers, those instincts are not gone. So that's why, you know, we have multi-billionaires, people who never can seem to get enough. And like I said, unfortunately, we have sort of outpaced the evolution, assuming that evolution would ultimately get us to a point where we didn't have these emotions and desires that are causing the problem. But it's just too slow. So, you know, unless there's a way to speed that up, maybe through genetics, I'm back to where I started.
Yeah,
where you are,
if we
we're
could
doomed.
find, if we could find that that greed gene and just remove it, yeah, might do the trick.
Yeah, Howard, did you have a?
It was just two things. Someone mentioned that after human beings, what do we have? And it made me think about insects, and cockroaches, and stuff like that. Will we touch on the evolution of insects at all, and where they came from, and why, and like the mosquitoes carrying malaria cause death, and ticks, and other insects, tiny little things, you know, messengers of death if you're not prepared for them, like that. And I would add that not all countries behave as the United States does. Some are far more civilized, far more rational in their management of resources and, you know, weapons and all that other stuff. So there are human beings on the face of the earth that look at life and their fellow human beings in respective countries in a rational, compassionate manner.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right, Tim. I completely agree. And but just not to be disagreeable, but all those disease things that you mentioned,
Yes.
they're all a hoax. They're not real.
Fake news, fake history.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
It was
All right.
that's
Yeah.
hoax.
Sal, Joy's mic isn't working. She's wondering whether volcanoes started by the meteor or independent.
Volcanoes?
Yeah. What starts a volcano?
It's really the molten gases and material in the core, and then there becomes a crack somewhere, and that activity just builds up pressure until it pops through. Yeah, I mean, that's my understanding of it. That's about it. Yeah.
Maxine has another comment.
I was thinking to answer Howard. I started reading the book you mentioned, The Moral Animal, and maybe what's happened in the United States is cultural inheritance, not genetic. And some other countries don't have the same cultural inheritance. And that's, I guess, because of our geography and the richness of our geography. So I think it's not only genetics that makes humans the way they are.
Yeah, one of the that's a good point. I'm when the class that I have planned for winter, which is going to be about the political landscape that gave birth to Trump. One of the most important factors will be the public relations industrial complex, which was given birth at the turn of the 20th century. And that, I think, is more powerful than our own genetic code.
Edward?
Yeah.
Yes.
Think of that.
I'd like to make a comment.
Yeah.
Am I heard by people?
Yeah.
When there are two things. One, next week we're going to talk about global warming, or whatever we want to think about it. But when we were looking at the clouds that came up with the dust and all of the things, it got me thinking about the atomic bomb and how the shape of all of those clouds came up in that format. And I think I'm not sure who mentioned it, all of these people with the $1 billion, these are the people who are really very active in creating what they have been calling as secret energy projects. And they have been working, that's Buffett and Bill Gates, and they have developed the federal government into building new types of smaller atomic bombs in the form of nuclear power plants in Wyoming. And that is in its last year or two of making strong demonstrations. And it is a major activity which has been taking place where people like Buffett and Gates have a lot of ownership of many of the primary or the various companies like Duke Power and Exelon and Dominion, even Southern Power, are owned in a very strong way by people like Buffett and Gates because they have such large percentages of the ownership and are on their boards. And they are now starting to push those power companies to get out of all of the ways in which gasoline and other forms of consumable energy are really causing the global warming to take place. And we all know that it is a very competitive business. And so this is taking place, and they have large brokerage houses. Everybody is now trying to buy up the stocks of these new companies. One is called Terra Power, and that's in Kemmerer, Wyoming. And that used to be a major electricity plant for the thousands of people who live in that area. But that plant, which was first by coal and then even natural gas, which has become very expensive. So as we think about global warming, we're all looking for new ways to create energy. Everybody wants an electric vehicle that'll take you 1,000 miles when you can charge it up. Solar power is working. Even Southern Power Company has some solar power, but it's not really here in the Georgia, Alabama area. It's mostly in other places that are pulling away all of their coal-powered plants. And so even though Manchin in his state is pulling money, trying to put money away, we have to think in a way that energy is very critical, and we have to work very hard to support the national parks, who no longer want drilling for oil up in Alaska and destroy all the animals that go on all the elk and all the other animals are being destroyed because of all of the fuel that is being spewed into the air. So it's going to be a very exciting discussion next week, and very fulfilling for the last program that we're going to have on this.
Thanks. The thing I would just want to add is that remember, no matter which commodity we're looking at, be it salt, sugar, cotton, oil, there's always problems associated with it, and there are solutions. The problem is there are people benefiting from not solving the problem. And they're very, very powerful. And so, there are solutions, but those solutions don't necessarily come to fruition because of the people who are benefiting.
That's why McConnell is such an obstructionist.
Denise?
Keep the status quo.
Denise?
There you are. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to get back to the evolution of man's, I guess, mental processes. So Shai Rabkin has said that our mental processes still work on a model that was useful when we were in small groups. They depended a lot on assessing people in front of you, seeing their faces, etc. And for us to evolve away from from that model, we have to have some bad stuff happen. Evolution works in rewarding the good stuff, but the environment we live in now is changing so rapidly. We still have yet to see the kinds of negative impacts that would lead us to evolve different ways of interacting. And it's probably going to be something at this point that's more catastrophic, that's going to get us there. It has to be a catastrophic event so that people will begin to try to evolve new models for how to survive.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I could take World Wars I and II.
Yeah.
That was a major catastrophe, and Europe was dramatically different post-World War II than it was pre-World War II.
Yeah.
It may take another 45,000 foot meteor to wipe us out and to start over. It might. I mean, it's but I guess I still have this notion that because we have intelligence and we can, work together, which is possible, we could, do something right. But on the other hand, as the scientists keep saying, is don't worry about global warming. You're going to have another ice age and it'll wipe you all out.
Yeah. So it's possible the solution is to move to another state. So Carol, can you give us perspective from another state? Carol Busby?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I was thinking of the book Blowout by Rachel.
Maddow.
Yes, thank you. Blowout, I'm almost finished.
I must have thrown it away.
It's really all about
It's in it. I want to see the editorial. Could you get that one?
the corruption in the oil and gas industry and how all these years, how they've lied and stolen, and they knew that global warming was going on, and what's his face went over there and made friends with Putin, and he's not going to give up, even though he was Secretary of State. He thinks he owns the world. And he even told Putin that Putin would have to do what he said. Well, that didn't go over too good with Putin. So we'll see. But the oil and gas industry is responsible for so much evil in our world. It's just incredible. I guess that's my say.
Okay.
The other
Okay.
thing
Yeah,
is,
right. We're gonna look at some videos of that next week. Yeah.
you want to watch out for the football player who says if evolution were true, we came from a monkey, there shouldn't be any monkeys left.
Okay. Maxine?
I sent my husband to try to find which day it was, but in the last 3 or 4 days, there was an editorial that talks about, well, it talked about what happens now. I can't find it, of course, about the flood in Kentucky and how disastrous it is and how good it'll be. And but it's so evolutionary, so it wipes everything away. And then the soil, with whatever richness has come through, will start again. Because we live such a short period of time, we don't see these big benefits of these big catastrophes. I mean, that's a terrible thing to say, that there's a benefit from a catastrophe. But things change and life continues. Maybe not the way we like it, but
No, well, yeah, certainly you could say that the meteor that killed off the dinosaurs,
right,
beneficial to us.
Yeah,
I think my point is more. I don't think that our species is going to be here forever, but between now and the time that it ends, we can either make it more pleasant for all of us, or we can make it pleasant for a few and have a torturous existence for the others. And I think those are real questions that we have to I mean, the whole idea of any kind of supremacy, ought to be debunked immediately. I mean, it's just, those kinds of things. So
you're very moral, Sal.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Let me add that, there are always going to be people that have and those that don't have. And we've never come up with a society that distributes the benefits equally to everyone. It just doesn't happen.
But look at the example of Japan, where they're the chief executive can't make X number of times more than the lowest paid employee and all of that. And who created that system?
Cultural
MacArthur. Talk about socialism and state, control.
Wow.
Douglas MacArthur. And that's a more egalitarian society. People are much more secure in their world. In fact, you know, they enjoy so much security, they have no security around the head of state who winds up getting shot. It's because that is so extreme and so out of the norm for the people in Japan. We have kids slaughtered on a July 4th parade, and it's old news within 3 days. You know, we really need to rethink who we are, you know.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, but yeah, I'm not looking for perfect, mind you. Again, I don't mean to be like I'm advocating for one thing or another. It is just that when I look at the totality of the 4.5 billion years and where we are as people, as Tim said earlier, there are pockets, there are governments that are humane and good and do good deeds. But you know, I think we need to contemplate who
But
we
isn't
are.
that also a result of our history? I mean, we conquered the country. We, you know, colonized it. It was the Wild West.
Right. And I think we got to get right. That's it, which is the,
and
you
so
know,
people carry guns, and this whole attitude in America is very much part of its history. And Europe's had more time to digest their history. They had brutal times too, but different.
no, I understand. Right. Yeah, I agree. That's
Do you have any ideas how to jumpstart this change, Sal?
yeah. No, I can only talk about problems. I have no solution.
Okay, but I can solve them. I can solve them.
How?
Okay, basically you got to look at the basic balance of the world. They're the haves and the have-nots.
Yes.
Okay, basically all SUGA members have the new program, which is really, really good, and non-SUGA members have not. So if you get more people to join SUGA, then there'll be more haves and less have-nots, and the program should be out in your email right now.
Wow.
And by the way, if you have a car you want to get rid of, just donate it to us here. And great, Dave. A promotion at the end. Well, everybody, thank you very much. I hope you're finding this enjoyable, and we'll see you all next week.
Thanks, Sal.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Sal. Thanks.